Hannah, are you ready to have your mind blown?
I am ready to have my mind blown. What are we talking about today?
Today we're going to be talking about Mummy Nibbles with a B. And I'm just here to tell you what your history teacher didn't. All right, everybody. So today I'm going to be telling you guys a topic, and then next week Anna's going to be doing a topic. That's, I think, how we're going to be doing it.
I'll have a few things to say.
Yeah.
It's like an offshoot of that topic.
Yeah, because Hannah knows about this topic because I found out about this topic with Hannah. So she knows majority of what I'm going to say already, I feel like. Well,
Oh, no. I'm excited.
yeah, there's some stuff that's in there that you're not going to know. But just so that it's obviously she's not going to be reacting the same way as if I'm telling her this the first time. So we thought we might include some extra fun little facts.
It's called
for you
acting, Felina. Don't give it away. No, and I also want to say again, like, we're not professionals.
We are not.
We have done research on these topics.
Yes.
But
so much research.
We might accidentally misquote something. We might get a date wrong.
Yeah.
Just want to put that out there that we will make a few mistakes. And we're aware of that. So if you have any more information on these topics or anything like that, feel free to share.
Yes,
we
share
love
it with
learning.
us at lattespodcast@gmail.com.
Yes. I also want to say, I love how we're choosing such a gross topic.
This is a really gross topic. Oh, yes. Also, another disclaimer. If you have a really queasy stomach, I mean, I don't go into much detail about it, but
it's going to be gross.
Prepare yourself.
It's going to be gross.
It is a gross topic.
Yeah. And we were like, why not do this for our first topical
Why not
podcast?
Start out, just put them in the trenches.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. So,
it's going to be a good time.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
We're going to transport y'all back to the Victorian era, which if you don't know, because I'm not a history girl, I never liked history growing up. So,
which is so depressing.
The fact that this was my topic, I'm a little shocked.
Hey, you got stuck. I think it's just that people didn't make history interesting for you.
No, they tell you about the wars and the boring stuff. They don't tell you about the mummy nibbles.
Yeah, they don't tell you about the fun stuff. Like, I've done most of my history. Well, I loved history growing up, but like a lot of my love for history is just stuff that I've found on my own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, I'm a nerd like that. But
we discussed, you're homeschooled, so you were able to explore those on your own.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I learned about the topic. I took the test and I forgot the information.
Right.
That's what I did. I was not a good student. Don't do that, kids.
But I think you're finding the fascinating stuff.
I am finding the fascinating stuff. So, Victorian era is from 1837 to 1901 per Google. So we're going to start out with Egyptomania.
Ooh.
So during the Victorian era, Egyptomania was rampant in Europe. I mean, like, they were crazy. All things Egypt, they loved. Okay. I don't even really know why they were so obsessed with Egypt. I think it was because we were coming off of we were coming off of the Enlightenment period, which I found out through my research. Yeah. So people were thinking more about things and they wanted to learn more and know more because at the time, obviously, education wasn't a priority for them.
I feel like European culture maybe found Egyptology or whatever the correct term is kind of exotic. Like, I think that was
it was fun. It was exciting. It was new.
Yeah, it was different.
So they were going crazy for any new knowledge they could find or any new relic that they could find, or I guess old relic, really, that they could get their hands on. It was wild. So they would have these things called unwrapping parties. They were very private.
Unwrapping parties?
Unwrapping parties.
They were called them unwrapping. It sounds like another kind of party.
It does. Sounds like a X-rated party.
Yeah, exactly.
But it wasn't. It was actually kind of almost very wholesome. It was like, we want to learn about this. So they would literally strategically and very medically soundly unwrap this mummy just to learn about it, and see. And it was exciting for them to see what a mummy would look like. And
they started
it started as curiosity.
Curiosity. Okay.
Yeah. It was just curiosity, which is why the practice of medical cannibalism wasn't a shock to anybody. They accepted it with open arms.
Yeah.
They were just kind of like, cool.
Oh, another new medical thing.
Yeah, another new medical thing. It was it was able to catch on quickly, and it wasn't really frowned upon because they were practicing some weird stuff over there.
Yeah, well, I know, like, when we were looking at it before, I don't know if you're going to get into this, but, like, they were, like, putting poisons into medicines. Like, they didn't know.
They didn't know any better. That's another thing,
yeah.
too. Like, they weren't educated.
They weren't.
They were just trying things. For the most part, during that time, they just took... someone told them something, and they were like, cool. That's what that means.
Yeah.
We're going to do it.
We're going to put arsenic on our bodies. Like,
yeah.
you know, that sort of thing. It's like, what?
Yeah, like, and like, the Enlightenment period did help with that, and we'll get more into that later, because they were coming out of the Enlightenment period. So the there was people going to school. There were some scholars who were thinking more about, like, oh, well, I'm not just going to take this for what it is. So they would do things like soak bandages in human fat before placing them on someone experiencing gout, which is arthritis that causes, like, painful swelling in joints. Painful. Yeah. Which is still a problem today. Fun fact, we still have. Yeah, people still have gout. Can
they have it in other places besides their toe? I always heard about it.
It's joints. It's your joints. Okay. Yeah, it's joints in general. So it can be your knees, your hips, your toes, your elbows, your shoulder. Like, it's just. So they would soak it in fat before they wrapped the bandages around the people with gout. So that's gross and weird. So
but wait.
So author Louise Noble wrote about Usnea in her book Medical Cannibalism in Early Modern English Literature and Culture, which Usnea is a moss that grows on, like, the skull of a corpse.
What?
And it was highly regarded in the medical community.
For
like,
what?
It would, well, I'll tell you.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just like freaking out. Moss.
It was a highly regarded medical treatment for nosebleeds and epilepsy.
Oh.
Yeah. I wasn't aware that epilepsy was a problem in Victorian era.
Oh, well, yeah, I get, yeah.
But, I mean, because when you think epilepsy, you think, oh, flashing lights. They don't have that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why, but, yeah. So that's the type of stuff that they were into.
Moss.
They would take the moss from a skull of a corpse to treat nosebleeds and epilepsy. So they would also take this, it's this stuff. It's called mumia. It's an Arabic mumia spelled with the Y. It was a sticky liquid from the Persian mountains, which translates to asphalt. So they would use asphalt to cure their ailments. That sounds perfectly normal, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, there's also a mumia with an I, not a Y, with an I. And that was a powder formed from grinding the mummy, like grinding up the mummy bones. And it was applied topically. Yeah. And so they were like, okay, mumia, same thing. Right? So they were just like, boom, same thing. Well, mumia with a Y, it was an Islamic cure-all, the asphalt. It was an Islamic cure-all. And just like mumia with an I was for Europeans. So it was somewhere around the 11th or 12th century. There's some discrepancy on that. I wasn't quite sure to pinpoint, like, when exactly it started. It was around the 11th or 12th century that mumia then started to translate it with an I to mummy. You can see the correlation there. I mean, like, I get it, whatever.
Like, oh, this just is mummy.
Yeah.
It's just spelled differently.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying 11 to 12, so this is like 1200s, 1300s.
1300s,
century. Yeah. A century?
They were really big on Egypt, like from the 1300s to the 1700s.
Gosh.
Yeah, they were huge.
So 400
crazy about it.
400 years of
Egypt.
Yeah.
All you can get. It's like an all-you-can-eat buffet for them.
Literally.
But we haven't even gotten to that part yet.
Okay, sorry.
But so yeah, the two versions of mumia, the mumia with an I and mumia with a Y, were regarded as one and the same. So they were like, mumia with a Y is the same thing as mumia with an I, and the mumia turned into mummy. So that would lead to Egyptian mummies becoming a medical jackpot for Europeans.
Obviously.
They were like, oh my gosh, if we get our hands on a mummy, we're cured. So they began to have these parties. And when I say they, I mean like high society Europeans.
Yeah, I mean, because
it wasn't just anybody. It couldn't be your average. Me and Hannah wouldn't be out here.
Yeah, like how could you just like, oh, how do I get my hands on a mummy?
Yeah, no, it was like high
average
society.
Joe, like now.
Yeah, so like really well regarded Europeans would then have parties, and they would call them mummy nibbles. They would say, "Come over for a mummy nibble," and they would unwrap the mummy. And then eat it.
Delish. What?
My favorite flavor.
Disgusting.
Mummy. Yeah, it's really gross. Really gross. They would use this to cure anything, like literally anything. It would be headaches, stomach upset, cancer, infections, life-threatening diseases, digestive issues. They thought it would cure the plague, anything.
Okay, so
Anything and everything.
after they nibbled the mummy,
Yeah.
did they see any difference? Oh yeah, this cured my cancer.
I don't know.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like how? What research?
they couldn't possibly have.
Right. Like, oh yeah, man, I just ate this mummy.
Oh, I have a headache. Let me eat the skull
it's
of
gone.
a mummy.
It's gone.
And
What?
it's gone. Hey, maybe you were just hungry and you needed to
Ew.
eat. Like, yeah, that's gross.
Maybe you're just hungry.
But no,
You're
they
being cannibal.
literally, whatever ailment they were experiencing would dictate which part of the mummy they ate. If they were having digestive issues, they'd eat from like
The stomach.
the stomach and like the rib cage and torso and stuff. If they had a headache, or were suffering from seizures, I just had a stroke. Then they would eat the head. If they were having like joint pain, they would eat like in their knee, they would eat the knee.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Like this
Wild.
corresponds. I'm just gonna eat it.
Yeah.
Like what?
I know. As a person with digestive issues, I could not imagine.
You'd be at those parties all the time, apparently.
If I was high society European in the Victorian era with my digestive issues, I would be expected to
Felina,
eat
come
the
to this
mummy's
party.
stomach.
Come to this party.
And that just doesn't sit right with me.
I just don't understand.
I don't either.
Like, who wasn't like, this is a human body. We're eating a human. This is
You're
cannibalism.
literally eating a corpse. It's medical cannibalism. But that's what they called it. Medical
they
cannibalism.
tried to justify it by saying medical cannibalism.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But it didn't stop at mummies.
Okay.
It didn't.
What?
No. In fact, some physicians believed that the fresher the corpse, the more medical benefits you would get. And that people weren't actually seeing the benefits, the medical benefits from eating mummies because they were all dried up and they didn't have any nutrients in them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they were like,
fresh meat and fresh blood are what's going to give you your cure-all. Like the mummy's not going to do anything for you. I know.
oh my gosh.
I know. So like they were like, eat all corpses,
Oh, okay.
not mummies.
Okay.
I was like, "Bleh."
Oh
No,
my
thank you.
gosh.
The practice of consuming mummies went all the way up to the royal family. King Charles II had a drink that he would partake in every single day. Mind you, every single day. He would drink this. And it was coined the King's Drops.
Ew.
What he did was he would grind up the mummy skull. Well, he wouldn't. His servants would. But they would grind up the mummy skull, make the powder out of it, and mix it into his alcohol. The alcohol of his choice for the day. Yeah. I know.
And this is like what year? Like you said Charles II? When did he rule? We're looking this up as we speak.
This was 1660 to 1685.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this was a while ago.
A while ago.
This was a bit,
but
okay.
still, like, that's like, like,
That
he
is
would, like,
disgusting.
every
Yeah.
single day. It was a hot topic, okay? Mummies were hot. They were hot and popping, all right? Well, because they thought it was mumia that was giving them all these benefits and that they had been embalmed with mumia, that's why they were eating the mummies. And because the Persian mountains, where they were originally getting the mumia from, was starting to dwindle in supply, they turned to mummies more heavily. Mm-hmm. So market vendors in Europe began selling mummies so that Europeans could have access to the healing powers of the mumia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like they thought they were ingesting what they had already been ingesting, but they weren't. It was different. It was mistranslation.
Right. This is why we need
this
linguists.
is why people need to think before they do.
Yeah. We need someone who's like officially like, this is not what this word means.
Do your research, people. But because they had these, because the vendor started selling them, that began an excavation trade between Europe and Egypt. And so they would excavate the mummies out of their tombs and they would sell them to Europe, basically, and European vendors.
Sheesh.
Because of this, There was a lot of desecration and
Yeah.
destruction of the tombs. And reportedly, we lost countless artifacts due to this.
That's what I'm thinking, because I've done like some research on like when mummification was actually happening and things like that. Like the respect they give these bodies. I want to know how, like, who was just like, okay, you can have these bodies.
Literally. Like, it's their literal resting place.
Yes. So we lost lots of artifacts.
Yeah.
You're saying.
Yes. Okay. Because people were so obsessed with mummies, it was fueling the Egyptomania even further. So, like, Egyptomania was already big, but then they started eating the mummies, and it was just like, oh my gosh, you're excavating these mummies.
Right.
Bring back some trinkets too. I want anything I can get. You know, at this point, Egyptomania wasn't just for like the money.
Okay.
Like of it, like oh here, like give me this artifact. It was for medical benefits too. They really genuinely thought that they were like. It was like medically helping them. It's like the ignorance of it. Like they didn't know any better.
Yeah.
So they thought, oh, not only are we getting money from this, but we're also helping like medical research, basically. And it's like, whoa, that's wild.
I think we should all be questioning what is being given to us in our medications. Then,
literally, though.
I mean, I'm sure. I mean, we're much more educated now,
yes,
medically, but still, it's like
education is more, accessible to,
to a larger group of people. Well, that's the thing, is like, you didn't know if someone who's like a medical expert supposedly in the 1800s is telling you, hey, this is going to help you. I mean, I guess you just listen to them, right? I mean,
right. That's what I'm saying.
They're
like,
the educated one.
Like they just accepted it for as it was. They were like, oh, this person, this doctor's telling me that this is going to help. I'm going to do it.
On my skin.
Yeah. So I'm going to do it. Never mind the fact that like, it can kill you, but they did it, which is wild, but.
I'm just surprised that barrier wasn't crossed. Like, this is cannibalism.
Well, and I don't think it was by everybody.
Right. No, of course not. Like you said, it's like high society.
I mean, it's the high society people. I don't think
even
that
not
everybody
all
was
high society was going to be like cool.
Right.
You know?
Right. There were some doubters. I'll talk about one of the main doubters a little later. But so going to Egypt and excavating a mummy for these vendors, that can get pricey. That can get expensive.
Yeah.
Either you go to Egypt and you do it yourself, or you pay someone to do it for you, and that's pricey, right? Vendors didn't want to do that all the time.
Do you know? I'm sorry, this is also getting you up.
Go for it.
Do you know if it was Egyptian people doing this?
Yeah. So some of the time it was Egyptians, but a lot of it was like European, like
I feel like
investigators, not investigators, but
like investors and like. Archaeologists,
stuff. They would like be going and digging them up, and but so like it gets pretty pricey for the vendors. They don't want to have to pay for it, so what they started doing was buying the bodies of executed criminals in Europe in their towns, criminals that had just been executed, and they would sell them to people as mummies. To get more profit. They would sell them fake mummies. No medical benefits whatsoever.
Obviously, no mumia. No mumia.
And they would sell them.
What would they be made out of? Like, it was just dead body. It wasn't like a fake mummy. It was like
they would mummify
it. Like just a corpse.
They would dehydrate it, basically, it was a mummy. But, like, it wasn't... There was nothing... Not that there was actually medical benefits to mumia anyways, but, you know...
It was supposedly.
So they would be selling them fake ones so that they could get more profit and they didn't have to spend as much to go to Egypt. So in the 16th century, Egypt decided that they needed to ban the shipment of mummies in order to protect their tombs.
Right. Because
they were being destroyed. Right. And they were selling fake mummies anyway, so we're just going to no more mummies. Not only for the fact that it was a literal resting place of a human. Yeah. Like, it was a human being's resting place.
Right.
That's where they were laid to rest. And they weren't respecting that. But also for the historical aspect of it all.
Like you're losing this history.
You're losing all this history. You're losing all these artifacts. Like I've already said, we've lost countless artifacts. This really upset the Europeans. They were crazed. Like, they think... teenage girl and boy band crazed. Like, they were wild for Egypt, okay? There were even reports Now, Hannah, I was researching this while I was waiting for some information the other day, and Hannah was in the room, and my jaw dropped, and I told you I'm not going to tell you.
I'm not going to tell you.
I'm going to save it for the podcast. there were some reports that people had become so addicted to eating mummies that they were craving them.
Oh my god!
Literally craving human corpses.
Oh my god!
Couldn't be me.
I hope. Yeah, no,
couldn't be me.
What?
Yeah.
So like, what is it? Like, what is in it that makes you crave it?
Oh my guess.
Oh my gosh.
My guess. They were eating the fake mummies. And I'm not sure how much research you've done on cannibalism.
I haven't, because it's a disturbing
It's, I mean, literally one of my biggest fears
is
being fed human meat without my knowledge.
Yeah. Messed up.
Wild. So like, I can't, like, my guess is that they were doing like the fake mummy, not realizing it was the fake mummy. Apparently, human meat is very addictive.
Oh my
Apparently, it's like nothing you've ever tasted.
Ew.
Yeah. Oh. So my guess is they were getting the fake ones, and then they were like, "Oh, these are so good." And then, because again, the fresher the better.
Oh, disgusting.
So instead of 200-year-old mummy, you get 3-day-old mummy. Well, I don't know how long it took them to actually like dehydrate the corpses, but it's like significantly less.
I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah, is it 7 days? Uh-huh. Oh, that's another thing. Mm-hmm. Some of the mummies were actually like, they did actually have mumia in them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they usually only used it for like the fast to like speed up the mummification process. So it's like if they needed it in 7 days, then they were going to use mumia. But that's like it was
about,
very
like,
rare.
Ancient history, like for Egypt. Like I have like a number for you, but I'll talk about it later. But to me, it's like it's just like what, you know what I mean? Like it's just like, okay, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I was going to say something.
They were craving corpses because I feel like it was probably the fake ones.
Oh, but no, like I'm saying, like I'm like terrified of dead bodies. Like, so even the thought of like at funerals, open casket, get me out of there. Like, I don't even want to look at a dead body. Like that's how like I am like at dead bodies. And these people were just like, "Yo, bro, come to this party. We're gonna eat some corpse."
Yeah. But they really did think that it was for medical purposes. I really like. That's the only way I can wrap my head around it.
Listen, any
like,
brainwashing,
they actually genuinely thought that.
You can convince.
I don't understand how they were able to get brainwashed into thinking that it was genuinely good for them.
Yeah, you
were eating a dead body. If that person died of like a disease, and you're just gonna eat it, you don't know either. Is
That's
the
what
thing.
I'm saying. Like all sorts of diseases can get passed.
Yeah,
and it's like. Well, I guess
even if they didn't die from a disease, what you could probably get a disease. Well, because like you hear about people getting like their rashes,
wrong
after
blood,
eating people,
transfusions.
Yeah,
like
but the blood would have been gone.
The blood would have been gone. Yeah, I guess so. But didn't the guy say the blood was like the healing part?
But that's not mummies. That's like fresh.
Yeah, well, that's corpses. What I'm saying. Well, yeah, and mummies, the blood would be gone. But like if you're talking about like the corpse, like wouldn't you be getting?
You'd be getting like rashes and stuff. Have you seen? Okay, side note. I saw this girl on TikTok and she was like. I started developing this rash, and she thought it was just because she made out with a guy with a beard, and she went in to get it checked out, and they were like, "Who have you been kissing?
I remember.
I need you to tell us right now because you're getting a rash. That rash that you have right there is what you get from eating human meat."
Oh my gosh,
wild! I would.
Disgusting.
I would die. I would be
die. Like, you might as well put me down.
Literally. Because what if they like really hit it off is the thing too. It's like, oh, and you're a cannibal.
That is so scary.
Yeah. But due to the Enlightenment period, which was from 1685 to 1815, so we came out of Enlightenment into Victorian.
Okay.
Scholars were more apt to challenge what they were being told rather than just blindly accepting it. Again, not everyone had access to this education, and that's probably the people who were still eating the mummies, eating the corpses. So we can't fault them for not questioning it. They weren't educated on it. But certain people were, and they started questioning it, and they began to demand proof of the medical benefits of eating not only corpses but mumia, because remember, mumia is asphalt.
Yeah, like where is the proof?
You're literally consuming asphalt, which I'm again, it's not like the same asphalt that we're thinking. Like it's like
it's like more like tar.
It's a little different. It's like a stickier substance, like a sticky liquid. You know, but But so they began demanding proof. And they didn't get the answers that they wanted, so people began to realize how heinous it was, and that they were eating people, so they stopped eating mummies. However, it wasn't until the late 19th century that they finally stopped the use of mumia.
So like late 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. It wasn't until the 19th century. So from the 11th century to the 19th century.
This was just happening.
Well,
I mean, you know,
they stopped eating it before the 19th century, but then they were still using it medicinally.
Right. Okay.
Like they stopped eating people, but they were still using mumia, and then they stopped finally in the 19th.
My gosh.
19th century.
My gosh.
Yeah. Wild. Obviously, not everyone was on board with the mumia craze. Okay. The most prominent doubter was the royal physician Guy de la Fontaine.
Oh, Guy.
Yeah, Guy Fieri.
Guy Fieri.
So wrapping it up, his disbelief amped up when he actually witnessed people creating fake mummies from regular corpses, just like the executed. I mean, props to them for like not going out and killing people to get like mummies.
Right.
They waited till like a criminal was executed and then did that. I'll give it to him, but like that could have gone real south real quick. But he realized just how easy it was for the European people to be conned, and then he like began to feel sorry for them and speak out against like the medical use of mumia, but everybody was just ignoring him. So that's kind of, it's like, here's the royal physician.
They said no.
Yeah, they were like, nah, man. But it really was like a royal thing. Yeah, like to eat mumia, to consume mumia, it was like you were getting the royal treatment, the royal treatment of the king. The king himself was using it. So they thought that they were, oh my gosh, we are so like, that's so highly regarded. It's like royal medicine. They were getting the same royal medical treatment as the king, basically.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that probably didn't help the case.
That's absolutely insane.
I know.
I can't believe when we both learned about this topic. It's first of all, like, how do we not know about this?
That's what I'm saying. That's why I said I'm here to tell you what your history teachers didn't.
Yeah,
you know?
like it's so like it was prominent almost. Like it like happened a lot.
It was. They were selling them in the markets. Like it was huge. They got ticked whenever Egypt was like no more mummies.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Like too is like Egypt, because I was wondering if it was happening like under their radar half the time, because I mean I don't know how much I feel like it was a respect through all the centuries, obviously, but like when mummification was first happening, like that was, they had to keep the body intact because it was their belief that the body had to be intact in order to go to the afterlife. Right. So you're talking about messing with someone's chains to go to the afterlife in the Egyptians' belief system.
Well, it also makes you think too, like, did the Egyptians believe that like if we get rid of this mummy, like if we give this mummy to them, are they like,
what happens?
Gonna get ripped from their afterlife? Like, you know? Yeah. They're just gonna be like ripped up piece by piece? Like, yeah. That's a wild thought too. Yeah. But
yeah. So a little bit about mummies, speaking of that, because kind of just like going back to, and it's funny because like I feel like there's so much. Have you heard about like the things like when you dig up a mummy, like something's bad's gonna happen,
like the mummy curse?
Yeah, like the mummy curse.
Yeah, that's another thing that I was like, should I include it? Should I not? Maybe I should keep it shorter. So
well, because so essentially, like there was like natural mummification to begin with. Like they'd throw, because you know desert dry sand, they would throw like bodies in a shallow grave, and it would like naturally mummify them. And then they were like, they put it in a coffin, and they'd realize, oh, this doesn't work. Just putting it in a in a coffin and then put it in the ground, it doesn't work. Like the body still decay. But first of all, I also want to know, I always think about stuff like this, like who was the one who was like, let's dig up this body and find out like that it's not mummified?
It was probably like a doctor or physician.
Well,
or a grave robber.
Yeah. Well, because it took a while for people to actually like take dead bodies and like start cutting them open and things like that. So I'm always like, who was the first one? But anyway, mummification.
It's like, who was the first person to realize that cows had milk?
Right. That's what I want to know.
What were they doing to that cow?
What
were they doing to that cow?
So essentially, like you said, mumia is like a Latin word for wax, and it's also from another like Persian an Arabic word meaning tar. So like you said, like these kind of things that go into asphalt, like essentially, like that's where the word comes from. And so like around like 5000 BC, I think it was, they were kind of like naturally like mummification was happening. And then like around 35,000 BC, that's when they started being like, we're actually gonna like do this process, because it was believed that in order for, there's like 9 parts of the human soul in Egyptian religion. So they would think that your body had to keep intact so that your, I think it was like the ka, or like something like the soul,
the ka
would find it again, and it had to like come back like every night. So you had to keep these bodies intact. So essentially, I'll cover the process at first. So what they do, and going back to mythology, I think it was Osiris. He was like killed by his brother Set, or maybe Seth. I might be saying that wrong.
I think it's like Seth now.
Yeah.
I think it was Set, but I think it's like the new version of it.
Right. Like, but essentially the myth goes like he cut up his body and like spread it everywhere. And then Osiris's wife found it and put it back together, except his genitals. Couldn't find that.
Oh, no.
So yeah. So that's a big thing.
I
know. I won't go into details about that, but essentially she like put him back together. So he kind of like started the idea, that like myth kind of started the idea of like you needed the body to stay intact like for the mummification process. But essentially what they would do is they'd wash your body. And there are 3 different tiers of mummification. There were some that were more expensive, and so it would be like the nicer process, and then it would be the lower, and then like a third option. And so first they would wash your body, you know what I mean? And then they'd cut you open. They'd cut you open. They'd get out your stomach, your intestines, your liver, and all that. And they would keep those because they'd be like, you need these. But because they put so much moisture into your body, they had to take them out so that they could mummify you. But they'd keep the heart inside.
Interesting.
Yeah, they'd keep the heart inside because they thought that was like the life source.
Okay.
Which, not necessarily wrong, but they thought that you needed that heart to go into the afterlife.
Okay.
However, your brain, they picked that baby out through your nose with a hook.
I know that.
Yeah.
I did know that because
they chipped out pieces.
Yeah.
But then you know what they did with it? Threw it away. Wasn't important.
You have to be stupid in the afterlife. You cannot use your brain.
And that's the thing. They thought it was useless, which is so funny because now you understand, like, obviously that the brain controls your functions, your senses, like everything. The brain is, but they thought it was useless. So I thought that was pretty funny. Yeah, they'd pick it out. I learned that too when I was, when we did like the whole Egypt period in my homeschooling co-op.
That's what I learned too, because we did like a walkthrough, and we had to pretend to be. I was actually the doctor.
Were you? Did you pick out the nose? Did you pick the brain out the nose?
They had to pick the brain out the nose. No, I can't say that I did.
Yeah. So they'd get your organs out. They'd pick out your brain through your nose. Sometimes they said they try not to do this, but sometimes they would like apparently break the nose to get like in more. Yeah. But they said they didn't like to do that because like the body is so important for like your, I think it's
preserving
the ka, which is the life force to find you. Yeah. Oh, it might be the ba. There's the ka, which is the life force, and the ba, which is you return every night to receive new life from your body and things like that. So, but anyway, they'd cut out your intestines and they put them in canopic jars, which they're like these little jars. There'd be 4 of them, and they had Horus, which was Osiris's son. It would have like different of Horus's sons. It was like different representations. So I think one's like a bird and one's like another animal. Yeah. They're like the jars. They keep your organs so that if you need them, you know, in the afterlife, you still got them. You got them. Yeah. But they, you know, they had to get rid of them in order for you to actually be a mummy. Right. Yeah. So then they do that. Then they would they would oil you down. No, sorry, I got that wrong. They would wash you. They would put you in salt I read both. They would either like put you in salt for 70 days or it'd be like 40 days. So it's kind of like it's somewhere like in that area.
I think you're right. I think I said 7 days earlier. Yeah, and I meant 70.
Yeah. No, I mean, because they would do like either like put your organs in for 40 days or your whole body for 70 days. I think it kind of varied depending on how fast you were doing the mummification process. So they'd do that. Your body would get all the oils out, all the nasty moisture. And then I read one too where they'd stuffed you with sawdust and rags and stuff like before they did it. Yeah. And then you'd get wrapped in linen, like 20 layers. I also read that like some people call it like yesterday's linen, as in like the family donated the clothes they wore yesterday to like wrap them. So like, you know, sometimes it was just like linen and sometimes it was like, here's our old clothes to wrap them up, like yesterday's linen. And then they would put like,
just depending on like what you can afford.
Right. They would wrap them and then they would put like gum, like the, like, you know, the mixture, like glue underneath of them. And so then sometimes they would put like the death mask and the shroud, and they would decorate you with amulets and things like that to protect you. And the funny thing about what I read about the different types of tears, this is one of the most interesting things that I didn't know. Like I knew, like I think lots of people know the basic like mummification process, but it just always fascinates me. And like you said, they would bury them with goods and things in the afterlife, so things that you would need. And that's why like those artifacts were being lost.
Yeah.
You know, because they would like, oh, they need all this, and sometimes they would mummify their animals, like their little pets.
I know, I heard about that too.
That's so sad.
Well, it's sad, but also like it's sweet.
It is sweet because
like,
they want
look
them.
at the connection of like your pets going back to like the Victorian, like
Yeah.
ancient Egypt.
They wanted their pets to go with
They
them.
still had their pets and
Yeah.
they still had that connection and they still wanted them.
I
And that's
know.
it. I mean, shoot, if I die,
Yeah.
I want to take Darcy with me.
Right.
I want to take Darcy with
Right.
me to the afterlife. I want to go to
Right.
heaven with Darcy.
Yeah, I want Keanu.
Yeah.
Keanu's my dog. But,
Darcy's my dog.
but like then you like sometimes they would like I think kill them to like bury them because they wouldn't
With
be dead.
them. Yeah, they wouldn't be dead.
Necessarily.
Yeah, that is sad.
That's sad. That's the sad
grim.
part. But like the other part is like I guess like a concept like they wanted to take it with them.
Like they love
Which
this
would make
dog so
sense,
much,
yeah.
they wanted to be with him all
Yeah.
the time, like
Yeah.
forever, for all
Yeah.
of eternity.
And I also read like at their funerals they would have like professional mourners they would hire, like women, to like mourn for the people that passed away, which I thought was so interesting.
How do you get that job?
I don't know because I want it. Get paid to like go cry
Get
for
paid
someone.
to-
I would do
get paid
it.
to dress in
I'd be
black.
like-
The modern day professional mourners
Right.
wear all black and take an umbrella on a sunny
Right.
day to a funeral, and that's what I want to do. I want to be a
Right.
professional mourner.
And the interesting part that I read that I didn't really know about, because I feel like some of this is like basic knowledge, but it's just like review this because like think about how much like value the Egyptians put into this, that it would take 70 days, that they'd bury you with, I think they also buried you with these things called shabti, I might be saying that right, shabti dolls. And it would be like these little things that would take on your tasks in the afterlife. So like the more shabti dolls you had, like the more like wealthy you may have been.
Okay.
So they would kind of like know like
How
based
do you
on like
get
what
a
you had.
Shopty doll? 'Cause
They're like
I
little
want one of
dolls
those.
like that they put in their tombs.
Do Shopty dolls work?
Now?
Like,
Like, can they work for you now?
can they work for me currently? Can they
That's what
do
I'm
my
like,
chores
can
for
I
me?
figure out a Shopty doll?
Can I get a
one of
Shopty doll to do my
Yeah,
laundry?
Yeah. But like the wealthy people would have more of these.
Yeah.
They also, one thing that fascinated me was like, you know how I mentioned the different tiers?
Mhm.
So like the first one was like the big process, you know, like you'd be like wash, you'd be 70 days and salt. And there was like a better salt. There was like a natron salt that's like from Egypt that naturally occurs, that has like these 4, like, I guess what's the word? Like minerals in it that would be like, yeah, good for mummification. And then there was like regular salt. So it would vary depending on like the different tiers and stuff. Or like what you can get a hold of. But like the first tier was like the big one, like where you got all the stuff removed, you got it in canopic jars, you got the salt, you got washed, all this like fancy stuff. I think the second one was like they put like what was it, palm oil into you. They would like yeah, they would, and like it would like they would stop you up and like put it in you, and it would dry out everything besides the skin and bones and stuff.
Like literally like inside, like they would like plug it up.
Yeah, they
Plug up the
and then say,
holes.
"Boop,"
And
yeah,
then say,
and then put that in you, and it would like yeah, and then they did all the like I think they did like the regular stuff for you
that's gross.
and all that. But it
And
was, like,
people were
faster.
eating that.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like if they put this crap in you sometimes, like think about it, and then they'd wrap them, of course.
They
and then-
literally put stuff
Yeah.
in them.
I think it was oil of cedar is what it was called.
Okay. Oh, I love cedar.
Yeah,
I
but I
love
don't
the
think it was a
smell of
good thing
cedar.
because it like dried you
Oh,
out.
okay.
Like you know
Right,
what I
but
mean?
like, that's what I'm saying. Like they literally would put the stuff. They would inject the stuff into a human body to dry it out, and you're just gonna go eat it.
Eat it. Right. And then the last one was like they still like remove your intestines and put you in salt, but it's kind of like you kind of got washed, like the organs got washed. It wasn't like, you know, it
Yeah.
wasn't like you were drying out the
It
organs.
was the
It was the last
poor
little bit.
man's
Yeah, the poor man's
mummy.
mummification. But like this was very important to Egyptians because if not, you weren't going to go to the afterlife. So it was believed that if you could afford a higher tier for your loved one and you didn't, you chose a second one, like you'd be haunted. Yeah. So I don't know if it was like you'd be haunted by your dead relative or like by someone else, but it was like believed like
Listen,
if you,
all of this is just
Yeah.
so that the mummifiers could
Yep.
just make more money.
exactly. Yeah.
You gotta fork it over so your
Right.
your
Right.
your granny doesn't
That's a lot of pressure
haunt
though.
you.
It's your responsibility what happens to your relatives.
Well, and I mean it really is. But
Yeah.
like
But like you're being
I don't think your
essentially-
granny's gonna haunt you because you didn't do the second
Yeah.
tier that you could afford.
Man, put me in a box. don't pay all that money.
They're dead.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Incinerate me and plant
Send
a
me
tree with me. You know,
Right, plant a
turn
tree.
me into potting soil. I
Yeah.
don't care. Some fertilizer.
Right. And I learned all this back in like high school, and like I was doing more research on it now, and I didn't know the haunting thing, but
Yeah, that's fun.
when I'm gonna introduce you to the world of homeschooling, one of the very few field trip that I went on with my homeschool co-op, and I didn't do co-ops a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
This was the only time I did it. We were studying Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And like it was funny because like we had a little party before and all that, which was really fun because like my sister made a pyramid cake because it was one of the kids' birthdays, and like I think we did like a little mummy thing, and it was lots of fun. But the field trip idea was we're gonna go to a funeral home to learn about embalming now and how the modern embalming process works.
That is so scarring.
It was very scarring. It's a group of us homeschoolers just with this guy, this funeral home owner, leading us through, telling us about things. Like we went into the room, we saw the table, like where they drain all the crap, and where they like the needle they showed. I think that they put the like what is it called? What is that stuff called? That goes into your body, like formaldehyde. I don't know. I don't
Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde. We're gonna cut that out. You know that
No,
stuff.
I'm keeping it in.
That stuff. Whoa. I'm bad with medical words.
Formaldehyde.
Mortis. Yeah, is that what they put in your body when you die?
Formaldehyde?
I don't know.
Let's look it up.
Well, yeah, let's look it up. What do they put in your body when you... Anyway, they showed us the needle that they put that stuff in. And, like, one of the kids was like, so this freezer behind me, is there a dead body in it right now? And the guy goes, there could be.
So, yes.
And I'm, like, sitting there like, why are we here? This is the one field trip I get to go on.
This is my first field trip.
Yeah.
One of the most important chemicals used for this purpose, for embalming, is formaldehyde.
Okay. So I did remember that. I learned something when I was there.
You remembered the
I
word,
just couldn't
you just
say
didn't
it.
say it. It's like Marshall when I changed my brakes. So you understand the concept, you just can't physically do it.
Right,
Precisely.
exactly. So, yeah, that's mummies, and that's my experience with a field trip.
That's some trauma that's going to be unpacked in her therapy sessions.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
For sure. That's terrifying.
It was terrifying. I just don't like dead bodies. Like, I get
that. You also don't like anything horror or gory.
I don't. Yeah.
I'm a horror girl.
Yeah, my husband loves horror.
See, Wes and I could watch a movie and we could love it.
Yeah.
And then you would be sitting there like, I'm going to have nightmares for a week.
Yeah. We will watch, like, sometimes he'll convince me to watch one, and we'll watch, like, the lowest tier horror film you can think of, and I'm, like, freaking out still.
Yeah. The horror movies that scare me are, like, the demonic ones.
Yeah, don't do.
That's real.
Well, religion, yeah. There's our religious
Spiritual
upbringing
warfare.
too, spiritual warfare, which I don't like that either. But like, I just don't like horror in general.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I wish I did, because I think it's fun.
It's fun.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. I sometimes it's fun to be scared, but like I've gone to like little like things that aren't actually scary, like little like haunted like things, like fake ones.
Yeah,
where it's like it's been fun because it's like stupid.
Right.
But like, if you tell me like Wes wants to go to like, you know, that insane asylum.
I want to go to the insane asylum too.
That's like, you know, really
Marshall won't go with me.
Yeah,
me and Wes will go.
Wes, yeah. Apparently my mother-in-law wants to go too. So if you want to go with her, she's real cool. You guys can all three go.
We can go.
Have a little field trip.
That's
your field trip.
I'll give him his pen.
I will
still
not
can't
go.
find his pen.
Oh no.
His cool. Let's start a cult pen. For those. Okay. Hannah's husband's humor, as we've mentioned, is
dark humor.
Is dark. So I got him a pen, like that you like put on things, not like a clicky pen, but like a pen that you put on like a backpack or something. And it's the Kool-Aid Man, and it said, "Let's start a cult." And I'm so excited to give it to him.
Find it.
Well, my cat knocked it off the table, and I don't know where she knocked it. I know she didn't eat it because, like,
right, I hope not.
Obviously, she would have issues.
Should be, yeah.
But like, I don't know where she put it, so I gotta find it. It's a little guy.
It's a little guy.
It's just a little guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was our episode on Mummy Nibbles.
Welcome to our first disturbing podcast.
Our first official episode.
We said let's do it on eating mummies.
Let's do it on cannibalism, dude.
Yeah. You might as well start out at the top.
Start out strong.
Yeah,
I said, throw them in the trenches.
So yeah, if you enjoyed this in any dark sense, I suppose, like and subscribe, follow us. Yeah, that would help us out.
If you want to tell us about your current hyperfixation, or if you have any fun mummy facts for us or Egyptian facts for us, go ahead and reach out to us at lattespodcast@gmail.com.